Well, I want to say thank you so much to Mr. Steve Willis for an exceptional gift. May God richly, richly bless you, my friend. Thank you. Um, Tonight, I was thinking that we would deal specifically with the word. We are going to have quite a bit of scripture reference this evening, and I think it's important for us to all know that our Father in heaven is so good to each and every one of us. Again, Steve Willis, I want to thank you so much. And I am humbled. I don't even know if I could read now, but I just want to tell you how humbled I am. And I want to thank you because I believe that you were obedient to the Spirit of God. And so I thank you. Old Head Deuce, how are you? Can you hear me fine? Let me know if you can hear me. You guys let me know if you can hear me. I'm on my cell phone and I'm hoping that you guys can hear. Um, Having a little technical difficulties, but I truly believe that we're going to be okay. But if you can hear me, I need you all to just let me know in the chat that you can, because I want to make sure that the sound is coming uh, nice and clear. So if you'll do that, it would be greatly appreciated. Tonight we are going to read from the book of Ezekiel, and I want to thank another friend of the channel. Um, hey, Black Spring. I want to know you can hear me. Okay, good, good, good. That's a good thing. So today, I'm going to tell you guys something. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of stuff that's happening right now. Thank you, my brother Steve. Thank you. Then Blue Line, thank you as well. There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now, folks. And I got this exceptional scripture passage from one of the friends of our channel, Sandy Aaron, who gave me permission to give her name. And I want to tell you something that right now I have this warrior, almost tribal like spirit that's come over me over about the past few days. And it's at that point where you just want to fight, but not in the sense that people think you need to fight physically. I'm talking about spiritual warfare, that kind that makes you get angry when you see other people treated bad. That's where I am. I read a story to everybody the other day when we were talking specifically about the Bank of America situation going on in California, where those who were in California were having troubles with their bank account, not receiving their employment development payments from the EDD there in California. That enraged me, but not to the point that this that I'm about to tell you about has enraged me tonight. So the situation would appear that everybody in California that was getting their unemployment payments this past week or over the past month or so had not received their payments. And now they came out the other day, as we read, and they said that what was going on was there was some people in a prison system that was stealing all the money. Well, the bank washed their hands of all of the people. And then Governor Gavin Newsom pretty much washed his hands of the topic. And then finally, the EDD, the bank, both of them, just of course, they just washed their hands. They threw those people to the side, not thinking about the fact that their blatant theft of this money was going to cause somebody some hardship. You see, they didn't think or care about that. They did not think and they did not care about that. Well, here's the situation today. And you know what? When I got angry at this particular situation I'm about to share with you guys, I asked myself, why am I getting so angry? And the Holy Spirit let me see why. I was getting angry because of the fact that this theft that just happened, that everybody is going to start telling everybody else about here in the next couple of days, happened blatantly and under the noses of people. So now let's enter the stimulus. As you guys all know, I said I don't care whether or not we get it. It doesn't make me a difference. They could keep mine. And the reason why I felt that way was because I believed that there was going to be something else attached to it, right? That's how I felt. I felt like there was going to be something else attached to that particular money. And so I said they can keep it. I meant that. But today I looked on that little portal they have. My daughter was actually looking for her money. She's in her 20s. She needs it. She's got children. She's got some needs. I can't help her. And so I was sitting here with her while she went through. She said, Mama, look at this. Here's the link for the IRS. Put your information in. I said, baby, I really don't care. I feel like there's probably going to be something going crazy with that money. I'm really not tripping on it. She said, come on, Mama, do it. And okay, I'm a girl. I get it. You know, we get a little curious. So I went ahead and I put it in. And I looked. Then I noticed that it had a different bank account than the bank account that my taxes were deposited in only, last year. It wasn't my standard bank account out of Louisiana. So I said to myself, what account is that? I scratched my head and I thought to myself, well, it looks like an old account from years ago because I do remember those last 4 digits. So I called my existing branch and they said, no, ma'am, we don't see it. And I said, okay, no problem. And then something, I shouldn't even say something, but the Holy Ghost told me to go ahead on and pull up my taxes from 2014. And I did. But at first I thought to myself, well, it couldn't be anything to do with that. So I went ahead and pulled up my 2014 taxes. And lo, behold, there was the account number. Tell me if you guys hear me. There was the account number. Okay. The account number was for an account that was closed in 2014, at the end of 2014. Well, because I had switched from one company over to another company. And I began to scratch my head and I began to try to figure out what is going on. I'm going to tell you guys what's going on. I got very angry. Then I asked God, why am I so angry? I'm okay, but why am I so angry? And then it dawned on me. These people actually reached back to 2014's tax return on purpose to send money to an account that they knew was closed. Why? Because the Belgium Economic Accounting System Terminal, or Belgium Economic Accounting Surveillance Terminal, knows it all. They know what accounts are open. They know what accounts are closed. They know what's going on. Yeah, they do. And so they decided to deposit the money into an account that was closed so that they could do what the new and improved IRS regulations for receiving these payments is. Listen carefully. If the account has changed since the last time you had a direct deposit, they will not send you a check. No, they won't. They will allow you to claim it on your 2020 taxes, which means you'd have to wait even longer. Which means for all of my brothers and my sisters out there who ain't got nothing but beans and rice to eat, for everybody who's sitting up here without their rent being paid, for all the folks who are in danger of getting their lights cut off, okay? For everybody who cannot make a car payment where that little bit of change would have helped them, where that little bit of money would have helped them. Don't you know these nefarious, demonic, evil people have elected to shut all communication down? Well, you cannot call them. You cannot say anything. You can't look. You can't do anything to them. There's nothing you can do. So for every one of my friends, every one of the people that follow, every person that I've seen, that I've heard, that I've talked to, that have done nothing but say they ain't got enough to make ends meet, these dirty dogs have decided to show their hand. Well, here is my prayer. I'm going to get into Ezekiel. I'm going to get into it. But here is my prayer for every human being who decided to help each and every one of these nefarious characters that are straight from the pit of hell, that have taken on the shape and the form of a human being. I ask God, deal with you swiftly. Please hear me. Please hear me. Because they've messed with the right one this time. They've messed with the right one. They've messed with somebody who ain't going to do nothing but pray and call the angels, as I already have. Oh, you guys better look out, because here it comes. These people have literally done this thing. They have done, and they have sought, and they have figured out a way. They have sat down and plotted in their minds an evil, corrupt, nefarious, wicked, demonic, dark, dank thing against these people who are suffering right now. They shut it all down. They did it in California by taking the money. You see, they ain't going to do us like they did Greece. No, they ain't going to do that, because they know we ain't having it. Oh, but you see, they trying a little bit by a little bit. A little bit by a little bit. This is their idea of a banking holiday. Yeah, it is. I'm going to tell you guys right now, you're going to hear a whole lot more folks. But this right here has me angry, because I think of all of the people out there who ain't got no food. Do you guys realize there are people, there are children who are food deprived. There are adults who ain't got no food. People who had jobs a year ago today. People who could pay their light bill a year ago today. People who had some food, some semblance of pride a year ago today. There are men out there who just can't figure out what to do. He used to have it all together. And those little bit of coins that y'all promised, the little dust that you done promised to break them off, would have helped him, especially if he got a wife and a couple of kids. Those little bitty peanuts that y'all say that y'all don't think is anything that we're going to miss, because, well, to you, it ain't nothing but, a little spending change. Yeah, you got husbands out here losing their minds because they can't figure out how to take care of their families. You got single mothers out here who need this money. And you dogs are sitting up here playing with folks. Well, I got something for you, baby. Because I'm going to put this word. I'm going to put this word all over this situation. And if y'all think this thing going to continue, you going to have to come correct with this. No, y'all wasn't going to do us like you did Greece. Because there's a lot of patriots out there that can get angry with the word of God, and that can do just like I'm saying right now. This is righteous indignation. That's what this is. So for those of you who are expecting a very timid message, I apologize for disappointing you. But this ain't that. What this is me verbally standing up for people who probably don't even know they got jacked yet. They probably don't even know they got jacked. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And that's what makes me angry. That's what makes me angry. Our reading tonight is coming from the book of Ezekiel. I want to thank Sister Aaron, again, Sandy Aaron, for sending this text to me in an email, along with a very powerful message. In Ezekiel chapter 9, it says, "He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapons in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate." We're coming out of Ezekiel 9. If you got your sword, go get it. If you ain't got it, we'll hold for you to go get your sword. But you need to be reading this word, because the only thing that is going to help us overtake this situation is for enough of us to get angry and realize that we got power in this word. Don't sit back while your brothers and sisters and neighbors and friends and family members are almost near death's door. They may not be as strong as you are in the faith, and they may be near suicide. You just never know where somebody is. So don't sit around here and not get your word on. Don't sit around here and not get yourself prepared, saints. This is that day. So again in verse 2, it says, and behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man with a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side, and they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. Verse 3, and the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was, to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn on his side. This is what she was talking about when she sent this email, and it was the mark of the righteous. The mark of the righteous. Here it is in verse 4. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Verse 5. And to the others he said, in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark. And begin at my sanctuary. Where the church at? Where the pastors at? Where are you Maybach cats? Where are you cats that roll around in Maybachs? Where y'all at? Where the dudes that's rocking $3,400 suits, $10,000 bespoke suits? Where y'all at? Where are the cats that get their shoes made by hand in Italy? Where y'all at? Where are you? Y'all getting punked by a grandmother right now? Huh? Where you at? That's what I need to hear. I need to know where they are. All of the mega church has been mighty silent. Ain't nobody said nothing. So he says, I want y'all to go head on. I don't want you to start at the sanctuary. That's what he said. Let's go on back a little bit here. He said, I want you to go through the city and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all of the abominations that's been done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said, in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye any pity. Slay utterly the old, the young, both maids and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Verse 7. And he said unto them, defile the house and fill the courts with the slain. Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. Verse 8. And it came to pass, while they were slaying them, and I was left, that I fell upon my face and I cried, and I said, Ah, Lord God, wilt thou destroy all the residue of Israel in thy pouring out of thy fury upon Jerusalem? Then he said unto me, the iniquity of the house of Israel and Judah is exceeding great, and the land is full of blood, and the city full of perverseness. For they say, the Lord hath forsaken the earth, and the Lord seeth not. And as for me also, mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their head. And behold, the man clothed with linen, which had the inkhorn by his side, reported the matter, saying, I have done as thou hast commanded me. So now, if you want to go forward, you can. You can read. Let's go. Ezekiel 10:1. Then I looked, and behold, in the firmament that was above the head of the cherubim, there appeared over them as it were a great sapphire stone, as the appearance of the likeness of a throne. And he spoke unto the man clothed with linen, and said, Go ye between the wheels, even under the cherub, and fill thine hand with the coals of fire from between the cherubims, and scatter them over the city. And he went in my sight. Now the cherubim stood on the right side of the house when the man went in, and the cloud filled the inner court. Then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherubim, or from the cherub, and stood over the threshold of the house. And the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of righteousness, of brightness, and the Lord's glory. And the sound of the cherubim's wings was heard even to the outer court, as the voice of the Almighty God when he speaketh. And when it came to pass that when he had commanded the man clothed with linen, saying, Take fire from between the wheels, from between the cherubim, then he went into stood between, or beside, the wheels. And one cherubim stretched forth his hand from between the cherubims unto the fire that was between the cherubims, and took thereof, and put it into the hands of him that was clothed in linen, who took it and went out. There is something to be said about being obedient to God. There is something to be said about understanding that all of this wickedness has the expiration date. And this expiration date, I decree and I declare right now, is now. Over. Done. Done. Because once you get people who know that this is a demonic thing happening, and once you get people who all start to stand up for the Most High's children, then things will change. So all of us was sitting around, and everybody was pretty much chattering and talking, and all the while this went on, every single one of us pretty much stayed in anger, but to ourselves, but to every single pastor, every single evangelist, every single breadcrumb person, every single one of them who has been looking, who has been begging for money from the poor, from the widows, from the single mothers, from the single fathers. Let's not forget, there are some women out here who is ratchet and done walked out on their kids. So let's not forget the single fathers. But they have taken advantage. And so he said, I want you to go on in there, and I want you to start the synagogue. Start at my place. Start there. So this is a call and a cry to all the so-called preachers, all the so-called evangelists, all the so-called stationary missionaries that used to sit on the front pew full and sat on the word and do nothing. The time is up. And the time is up for these demonic entities that we already know is in leadership. It's time to stop playing. And it's time to call it what it is. These things you see ain't people. It's time to get serious with this word, and it's time to start to deal exactly with what we're dealing with, and we know what we're dealing with, and what we're dealing with ain't people. They got a few minions that's humans. They always have. They always have. But we are dealing with darkness. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, rulers, wickedness in high places. Call them down in the name of Jesus. Snatch them down in the name of Yeshua. What are we waiting on? It's time for warfare, people. When I can see what they've done, and when I can look at what they've done, and I know that what they've done is stolen from the people who ain't got no hope, people who may not even know Yeshua, people who are out here that's on their end. They ain't told you the suicide numbers, have they? They ain't told you how many people's hearts are failing them for fear of what they see, have they? They haven't given you the true statistics about cancer. Are they? Is there any truth in any of them? No. It's time to cry loud and spare not. Quit playing with these things, because these ain't no people. Quit playing with the minions that they got working for them in a human suit. We already called it out. We called it out last week. We said what we believe this thing is, didn't we? Yeah, I said it. AI is the beast. Yeah, that's right. The Belgium Economic Accounting Surveillance Terminal System is how they count that money. That's how they get hold of that guap. That's how they know where you spent that cheddar. Is it ghetto enough for you now? Do you hear me? That's where they look at the money. Every time you swipe a Visa card, that's what it goes through. It reads the code. It reads that chip. It knows where the money going, and it knows who put it out there. So that's how they know that that account of mine was closed 5 years ago. And that's how they knew that all they had to do was write in a new rule for the IRS to say, hey, if for whatever reason you don't get your tax return or you guys don't get your money, don't worry. You can just file it on your taxes, okay? Don't worry. Meanwhile, son of a guns, like McConnell, son of a guns, like Nancy Pelosi, son of a guns, like Gavin Newsom, son of a guns, like Gretchen Whitmer, son of a guns, like that thing out there running run shots in New Mexico. I put you on notice right now in the name of Yeshua. You better be really concerned, because the word has been sent on you. Just like the Most High, when Yeshua walked the earth, Yeshua sent the word and he healed. It only takes the word. So because of this thing that I see, that I know that are being done to people who probably can't pray like me, I'm angry. Because of this thing that I see that's being done to people who are already at their wits' end, I'm angry. And because I am now angry, I'm hot. Hey, and when I get hot, it's time for warfare, spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare. Every one of those people need to watch out. You know why? Because God moves through his people here in this earth realm. And the funny thing is, see, we ain't got to put our hands on nobody. All we got to do is send the word. It's time to pray, people. And it's time to be serious with it. It's time to get serious with this thing. It's time to take authority, because he gave us authority. The Most High God gave us authority. He gave us the authority that we need. And it is ennobled in the name of Yeshua. Yes, that's right. So what we going to do? We're going to pray. We're going to go into warfare. We're going to fast. What? He even said, this kind cometh not out but by prayer and fasting. And what was that? Those overrun with the demonic entities. All those demons that was on them. And they said it was legion and they were many. Yeah, how come we couldn't cast them out? That's what the disciples said. Why couldn't we cast them out? Well, he said, this kind cometh not out but by prayer and fasting. That's what he said. And so I say that every single thing that they plan against the body will not work. And now we must go forth and tell everybody what the good news is. And we must do it with impunity. Do it without caring. I don't care whether it's on that job that's going to give you a piece of paper in a few minutes that say, if you don't take this, then we're going to fire you. Preach the word. I do not care if it's in that grocery store where people say you can't talk about God in here. Preach the word in season and out of season. It's time to kick in the doors, kick in the gates of the kingdom of darkness. That's what time it is. It's that time. Yeah, it's that time. Okay? That's what time it is. It's time for us to do what we are supposed to do, and to sit and to quit sitting here just complaining. We can't do it, you guys. We can't do it, you guys. We got to take this thing. We got to take authority over this thing. We got to take authority, y'all. We got to stop it. This has to stop now. I'm just thinking of people that I know of, people who come in this chat, people who are hurting. Now, if my people who are called by my name will turn away from their wicked ways, turn away from all they sin, just get a little humble, shut up, sit down, and get humble. Sit down, be humble. Sit down and be humble. Shut up, be humble, turn away from your wicked ways, turn away from all your sin. Turn away from it. Go the other way. Then will I hear from heaven, and then will I heal your land. Then will he hear from heaven. Then will he heal the land, but not one moment sooner. Come on, saints. Come on, saints. Where you at? It is the whosoever, the people that people have thrown away, that have kicked to the side, that's going to bring about another change. Somebody put in the chat a while ago talking about Azusa. Yeah. Well, this next one here ain't going to be nowhere near that. It's going to be a whole lot more off the chain. Yeah. Yeah. Because we don't have Seymour. You know, we don't even have, before then, we don't even got, you know, Smith Wigglesworth. We don't got that kind of cat. We don't have Seymour. We ain't got none of them kind of men and women of old. We ain't got none of them. We ain't got none of them. We don't have a lot of people who really meant to do well like they did back then. That's the reason why there was such a change, because the people were thirsty for our God. They were thirsty for Abba, Father. They didn't understand why things were so bad, being raised in poverty, so many of them. They did not seek after things. They sought after our Father. They sought after him and his face and his holiness and his righteousness. And they wanted nothing more than to please him. We got to be that thirsty right now. We got to quit with all this other stuff, y'all. And I know none of those people that are in the chat right now, I know you guys are right there with me. I know y'all ain't like them other folks that'll just want to go run over here and hear this, you know what I'm saying? Let's go over here to this, convention. Let's go run to that convention, getting fat off the word, filling themselves up with the word and never depositing that out. Never understanding that in order to do this thing, you got to walk in love. You got to get angry when you see wrong being done to others. You got to. See, that's the difference. That's the difference. There's some folks that'll be so high-minded that they just ain't no earthly good. That they just say, oh, the poor folks, they need to have faith like me. Shame on you. What you mean faith like you? Because if it wasn't for the grace of God, there you go. So you understand that right now is the time that we are to get ourselves equipped with the word, and it's time for us to fight. That is what this is. That is where we are. That is what time it is. I want to thank you guys for coming in with me, because I'm not angry at any of us in this chat. No, I'm not. I love everybody here. But just like Yeshua, when he went into that temple and he saw when he went into his father's house and he saw all the money changers and all the merchants exchanging stuff, they had all kinds of stuff going on. And he said, yo, wait a minute. It is written that my father's house is supposed to be a house of prayer. What is all this going on up in here? And he began to kick the tables over and throw them out. Wow, what happened when you throw somebody's stuff? Especially when it's their valuables. They ain't even going to try to hit you right there. And what they're going to try to do is collect all their stuff, because that's really all they care about is their stuff. It's time to throw over some tables. That's right. It's time to throw it over. It's time to throw over some tables. That's what time it is. Yeah, that's what time it is. That's what time it is. That's what time it is. So we are holding on to the mighty word. And in tandem with holding on to the mighty word, we are going to pull down strongholds. This is what I commission every listener right now that is listening to me. Even if it's the person who gives me the thumbs down all the time. For you are not going to be able to hear this word and not act on it. Even for the people who don't like it, you are now responsible for having heard it. You're now responsible for having heard it. Do you understand? You are now responsible for having heard this word. That's right. So let's do it. Let's just do this. Okay? Let's just do this, y'all. At 45 after the hour, we actually have a special guest that's going to be coming in with us, and that's about a minute away. So before we go any further, I want to pray and seal this word. Okay? Father, we just thank you right now for the word that you have given us out of the book of Ezekiel. And we thank you for your power. We ask each and every one of us, Father, I know for myself, I ask for forgiveness for all sin that would so easily beset me and separate me from you. Anything that I've done, Father. Even though in my own mind I say, well, I ask for forgiveness throughout the day. If I mess up, I ask for forgiveness. Father, even that omitted and hidden sin that I may not even be thinking about, bring it to my remembrance so that I can again repent. I can repent. I want to be right, Father. I want to be right, Father. I pray, Father, for each and every listener that they, in their own way, working with you, the way you love them, see, you know them in your special way. And you meet each one of those that are in this chat right now and listening. You meet each and every one of us, Father, where we live. You meet each and every one of us based on the faith that we have in your word. You meet us right there. You don't expect for us to have unbelievable bank accounts and unbelievable speech and unbelievable accolades with unbelievable degrees. You don't expect that, Father. All you want us to be is like children. That's all you want us to be. And have a heart that's open to you and your word. So, Father God, right now we pray and protect this word that has just gone forward. We know that the word does say that when that word goes forth, some falls on good ground and some falls on, not so good ground. Some falls on, good ears and some falls on bad ears, basically, Father, as I paraphrase your word, you know what I mean. And I thank you for your protection over each and every one of these people that are here today. Father, you and I both know I'm not for everybody. But for those who are listening, even though there may be those listening that I am not for, I pray that your word helps them to become a little bolder, Father. I submit my mind, my heart, my life, my way, my tongue, every bit of me, oh God, to you. I lay down prostrate spiritually and physically, Father, before you, and I ask that you protect this word, that you protect these people, that you go out into the rest homes where those poor folks are right now, Father. Touch those mothers, those fathers, those grandfathers, great grandfathers, folks, aunties, and uncles, God. Be with the children, be with the people who are working on the front line right now, folks who got a job that's in the medical field and who have been faced with having to take that thing or lose their job. Father, be with them. Protect each and every one of them. Keep them in your hand. Now, Satan, I rebuke you and I bind you. I command you to let all of these people's information alone. You have no place dealing with anybody in this chat. And I rebuke you in the mighty name of Yeshua, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. I command you to be gone. You have no power. For the word of God declares that whatsoever I bind on earth is bound in heaven, and whatsoever I loose on earth is loose in heaven. Therefore, I loose the ministering angels, Father, your angels most high. God in heaven, your angels, I loose the ministering angels to go out and to supernaturally replace the lack that these people are in and that they will inevitably be in when they find out what has happened. Because, Father, as you allowed me to see it, there are people who have not. And there will be a multitude of confusion because of the lies that has been told, because of the covering of the lies that has been done. Protect them, Father. Protect them and keep them in your hand. Protect them, Father. Protect all these people out there that don't have no money. Protect all these people out there who don't have enough to eat. Oh, my. Hey, we serve a God that can feed us in the middle of a famine. Oh, God, bring food from the north, the south, the east, and the west. Everything they would need. Why? Because the earth is the Lord. Hey, and the fullness thereof. Well, you own the cattle upon the 1,000 hills. It's all yours. Give you glory right now, Lord. I give you glory right now, Father. And I pray that you will move. right now on the behalf of those who can't keep their lights on. Move on behalf of those who ain't got no food. Move on the behalf of those who ain't got no heat. Move on behalf of those who ain't got no water. Move on behalf of those who kids outgrew their clothing and their shoes during these last 8 or 9 months being stuck in the house. Father, they ain't even got no money to buy no new clothes, and the baby's clothes is high water. I don't know who it is, God, but you do. I pray, Father, that you would bless, that you would bring the blessings, God. I know how it is to be hungry, Father. And I thank you for having allowed me to be hungry, Lord. I thank you. I thank you, Father. I ain't had no lights to flow. I thank you, Lord. I thank you in all things. I thank you for the times that I couldn't pay my bills because I didn't have enough to go from one paycheck to another. I thank you for letting me go through it because you was with me. I thank you for being with me when I went through it. Yes, I do. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. So, Father, having understood what all of these people are going through right now, I thank you as I stand in the gap with them. And I pray your blessings over their lives and over their families, Father, people that I don't even know. I pray this word touches the masses. And I thank you right now for the spirit of humility, that I will never be puffed up, God, that I give you all glory, that all glory belongs to you and you alone. In the name of Yeshua, we praise you and we ask you right now, Father Yahweh. Amen. All right, you guys. So now we have a guest that's coming in. And I'm really not even going to do anything fancy as far as doing the announcement as to who she is, right? We're going to bring her in. We're going to all learn it together. We're going to all, talk together. We have we have one friend of the show, which is Demita Miles. And we also have a very nice lady by the name of Jeannie Vega. She's coming in with us. And let's go ahead and add them both in with us. And I want to tell you, ladies, thank you so very much for being here with me this evening. I thank you for coming in. I was trying to figure out how I would incorporate this with what was in my guts, because I had set the show and not planned to do anything but talk with you all this evening. And so I am thankful that you guys came in early and that you stayed around instead of, having to leave and come back. But I just am glad that you guys are here. We are going to take a little bit of a shift, but I don't think it'll be too far off. Miss Jeannie, I did visit your Facebook page today, so I don't think that we're too far off.
No, not at all. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Yes,
And Demita, sister, how are you? I want you to go ahead, Demita. Everybody here knows you.
I
So go
am
ahead on
just,
and say hey.
hello everyone, and I just want to thank you for giving us this powerful, soulful energy and your prayers for everyone. I felt it. It's needed. And what we're doing, what Jeannie's doing, that's what it is. Like you just empowered us more because this is what it's about. It's about helping the people and doing what's right for the people. Thank you.
To God be the glory. And Jeannie, hey, how are you? Tell us all about yourself.
I'm okay. Thank you for having me again. Well, I am a freedom advocate. I have been lobbying against bad bills in Albany here in New York for a few years now. Parental rights bills, anti-parental rights bills, bills that violate our medical freedom, our religious freedom, our personal freedoms. These are the things that I've been lobbying against. And no matter how hard I lobbied, I realized that it was literally just begging a bunch of politicians to not trample my God-given rights. So I met a few people who did something different. They introduced me to natural law, also called common law, certain aspects. And I turned my attention to a process of holding our public servants accountable for infringing on our rights rather than begging them not to infringe on them. So my son was kicked out of school because we lost a religious exemption here in New York to vaccines. And
Mm.
my son had several bad reactions to vaccines when he was a baby. And, I always had that gut feeling telling me, you need to stop, you need to not do this. And of course, that was God speaking to me, and I ignored it. And, you know, my son broke out with this terrible rash, ended up in the hospital, and they claimed it was eczema. It was this whole big thing. And I was gaslighted in the hospital. And you know, when I first started my journey, my son seems okay. Just for the record, he seems okay. I was given another chance, but as I lobbied in Albany, I met parents who it wasn't the same turnout. Whether their children were vaccine injured and they had children
Mm-hmm.
who were now a shell of themselves, or there were
Mm.
children who parents who had the same story as I did, except theirs didn't end so happy. So my son woke up from his nap and their children didn't. And
Mm.
I had decided that God gave me another chance, so I have to fight. I have to make sure that this stops at some point. We are sacrificing an entire generation, allowing the pharmaceutical companies and our government to just continue to just destroy children's lives, destroy parents' lives. So that's how I entered my fight. And this all I watched religious freedoms get trampled. We have late term abortion here in New York that obviously carries an agenda. It has nothing to do with a woman's right to choose, and everything to do with something much deeper than that. So as I kept digging, I realized that something needs to be done, and the answer is to hold these people accountable, not to try to work with them. They're working with people who are not for the people, right? These are
Mm.
these people obviously have super evil intentions. So
Mm.
we need to start. This is a battle of good and evil, and we need to start fighting the evil. And they obviously have all the enforcement and this crony government that is the de facto government that's in power now. And the government only draws its power from the governed. So when the people stand up, that's when it's over. The only thing is we have to stand up, and then something else. There has to be a step two. It can't just be stand up and walk the streets and yell. Because then you know what they do? They take the MSM and they villainize those people, and they make it look like this movement is an evil movement, people trying to destroy people, whatever it is, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And in other countries, you see there people are standing up, getting sprayed with fire hoses, tanks are coming in. What's the next step? After you actually stand up and acknowledge that the governments are working for evil. After that, you have to organize, you have to get assembled, and you have to work towards a solution. And that's exactly what we're doing here in the New York Assembly. I am the elected president of the New York Assembly. And what we are is a group of like-minded individuals who are working towards a solution. We use a method of natural law. Natural law is worldwide, international, and we stay out of the de facto courts because obviously the courts are rigged against the people. Now I can sue you
Mm-hmm.
and get relief, but I can't sue government officials and get relief. I mean, so every government official every public servant takes an oath of office and an oath to uphold the Constitution. And when they violate that oath, there is no way to hold them accountable in their court system. So the
Mm.
method we use is a method of notices, a paper trail, putting them on notice. We put them on notice. We give them time to come into constitutional alignment, and we basically give them what they're doing wrong, and give them a way to rectify it. We give them a certain amount of time. Each notice bills off the last. And when it comes time, their notice of default, we let them know the assembly of the people, the assembly of we the people will now start to hold you accountable, right? So Once we get to that stage, we can either hit their bond 3 times. Once we make 3 complaints against the bond will pay out. At that point, that public servant needs to leave office. If they don't leave office, because you're not allowed to hold office without that bond serves as insurance. And once that bond pays out, you are now considered too risky to be insured again. And you are not allowed to hold public office unless you have this bond that you must purchase before you actually take office. So when that bond pays out, you can now hold these people accountable in their personal and private capacity. You could also hold their spouse accountable in their personal and private capacity. So we can own these people's houses if they continue to violate our rights. And it's time for the people to stand up. If we're not getting relief that way with the assembly, then we can close the doors and we can call a grand jury. The grand jury is the highest court in the land. Even the Supreme Court must adhere to what the grand jury's ruling is. Justice Scalia said this back in 1992. He acknowledged that the grand jury was the highest court in the land. Now, once the grand jury rules that this person is in violation of their oath, that must stand. Now, all these years, common law grand juries have existed. They've done great work. Assemblies have existed, but the problem is always enforcement. So the New York Assembly is doing something different. We here are, with the help of Demita, are getting all our sheriffs to back us. So, obviously we do have sheriffs that do back us, but lately there has been a bit of a tiff between Governor Cuomo and the sheriffs. And, we're reaching out to these sheriffs. We're thanking them for standing up for what's right. And then we're going ahead and trying to create a relationship with them and let them know that we're supposed to work together. The sheriffs are the oldest form of law enforcement. They're the only actual real law enforcement that serve the people, that aren't policy enforcers. The only ones. So get them to back us. That would be our first line of enforcement. So our second line of enforcement is giving the de facto government the chance to right their wrongs, whether it be marshals, whether it be the president, whoever it is that we're trying to remove Cuomo. We can easily send notice with our lawful documentation, our paper trail that we've kept up to now, and ask Trump, well, do your job. You're a public servant as well. Remove our governor. Here is all the lawful documentation that we, the people of the good state of New York, we have removed him lawfully. And then he can send his guys in. And if he doesn't do the job, then the people stand up. And there is an organization that has called Life Force that has done a great job at organizing a word in the Constitution that has been villainized: militias, coalition, task forces, veterans, police officers, former police officers who want to stand up and serve the people. And most states do have civilian arrests, citizens arrests. So we can, with lawful documentation and the backing, enforcement, you can go in and arrest these people. So it's to stand up and get it done and stop relying. I'm going to get my guy in. He's going to change the government. Nobody is going to change the government. It's the people need to take power, restore power to the people, restore the republic, restore humanity. And it starts here. It starts here with the assemblies. So every state should start an assembly. County assemblies. Everyone should assemble. Because once the people, the de jure assemblies, those governments, the de jure governments stand up, the de facto needs to step aside. They need to step aside because we can handle it from here. You no longer represent us. You obviously represent lobbying, corporations, whatever money is coming your way. Whatever it is that you represent, it is not the people. So it is time for the people to stand up, and the assemblies is the true way to stand up, get organized, and get assembled.
I really, truly appreciate you for coming when you did. Obviously, there are some really unbelievable things that are going on in New York. One of the things, obviously, that we all, are talking about right now that's on everybody's lips is this evil, wicked ruling or law or proposal or whatever you want to call it. The fact that somebody could think of what's going on now in New York is what I'm thinking about. And that is, they come up with a way now And maybe you'll have to tell me if they even made it come through. After I heard about it, I just couldn't watch it no more. I couldn't even read it no more. But there was a ruling that says, hey, you know what? We're going to alter an existing law. And if you are even thought to have a communicable disease, we can capture you, drag you, put you away, hold on to you, and that's it.
Yeah. So
And
this is this,
go ahead, tell us about that.
yeah. So this is a bill that was proposed. It has been proposed since 2015. 2015. A
Mhm.
representative, his name is Assemblyman Nick Perry of Brooklyn, and he introduced this bill back in 2015 during the Ebola outbreak. And it actually has never moved. It has never had a co-sponsor, and it has never had a matching bill, a sister bill in the Senate. So as far as most of the representatives in the assembly, in the legislature, period, in Albany, they have shown concern about this bill, obviously. Now, the thing is that people don't really acknowledge back in 2015 when we did have an Ebola outbreak. So an outbreak is considered 3 or more cases. That's it. So
Mhm.
in
Wow.
yeah, back in 2015, Governor Cuomo, via executive order, gave the Department of Health of New York. Now he lawfully can't do this, but in the facto world, they do whatever they want. So
Ugh.
he gave power to the Department of Health to actually detain people. Um, so I know this is true because my father, who is a sickly man, goes to dialysis 3 times a week, and
Are you still with us?
he was actually he came in contact with someone who might have tuberculosis. The
Mm.
outbreak, somebody would, I'm not even sure what the exact story is, and he had several tests at the dialysis center. And he tested negative for tuberculosis every single time. And
Mm.
the Department of Health was hounding him to come in and take a test, and he let them know. Like, my father's a sick man. He's partially blind. He cannot travel on his own, things of that nature. He has several appointments weekly. So he let them know that he can't actually come in, but he did take 3 tests that tested negative. They can contact the dialysis center, and they can send him they can send them the results, right? And
Mhm.
they just kept on calling. One day, someone called my father from Department of Health and threatened to come get him, detain him,
Wow.
anybody who lives in the household. So they threatened to literally come arrest my mother and my father because of
Mm.
tuberculosis. So I obviously had to make a phone call and get everything straightened out. But they do have this power in the de facto world, so they technically can already detain the Department of Health. The other thing is that last year our state legislature uh passed a bill in 3 days. I mean, it was overnight, literally one night, that they gave all of their legislative power to Cuomo. This cuts out all the red tape and the middleman, and
Wow.
that pesky checks and balances system, right, that they have. So he literally can do anything he wants, executive order, without going through the legislature at all. So if he wanted to, right now there are, from what I understand, there are FEMA camps upstate. They are
Mm.
built. So if he wanted to detain people and throw them in internment camps, he's given, I mean, the legislature gave him the power to pretty much do whatever he wants. Now, again, the government only gets its power from the governed. So unless we stand up and tell him, you don't have the power because we no longer give it to you. I don't care what the legislature voted to give you. They don't represent us, and neither do you. You are not the king.
Mm.
So, unless we do that, which we're doing right now, we will call a grand jury. We will prove, we have been collecting evidence for months, that this man is indeed in complete violation of his oath of office and his oath to uphold the Constitution. That's a whole joke. So we're getting, and hoping that enforcement does its job, but we are working diligently here in New York,
Mm.
double time, to make sure that the people take their rightful seat at the table when it comes to decision making. So the assemblies are the exclusive voice of the people, instead of having these representatives who absolutely do not represent you. So we are aware of that bill. I think it's A416, and we people have called the legislators about it, and the thing with Albany is 1 minute it's not going to move, and the next minute it moved overnight. A sister bill gets attached to it, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, you have these people, there overnight voting on something, and we do have. So here we do have a Democrat majority, super majority here, so they can basically get anything they want passed, but yet they won't repeal the powers that they gave to Cuomo. That's not on the table for some reason. That they won't.
They don't want to get. They don't want to take that back.
No. That's the only thing we want from them. Otherwise, they
Yeah,
can.
yeah. So how long do you guys see it taking to get? Where are you in the process? If you don't want to publicly say that, that's fine. But where are you in the process of coming to at least having something come to fruition, and at least one or two of the things that you've got on the table right now? In other words, how close are you to getting where you need to be?
So we have all of our notices are actually on our website. Once they cure, which means we give them a certain amount of time to respond.
And the website has just been put inside of the chat, folks, so you guys can click that and look at it at your discretion, at your leisure.
Yeah, so that's nyassembly.info, and you can go there and you can actually look at our cure documentation. We have already sent him 2 default notices. We had word that he was confused about one of the default notices, even though he hadn't responded technically, but through somebody we had found out that he was a little concerned about some things and he couldn't read it. So we cleared it up for him and sent them a second default notice. So we are going ahead and with the grand jury. That's where we are right now, and we will be calling a grand jury within the next month. That it looks like there's about a timeline of about that to call a grand jury, and then we would wait for the ruling, and then obviously he's not the kind of guy that's going to say, well, they don't like me, guess I'm going to head out. Obviously he's not that guy. So obviously we would need enforcement for the people to do its job. So that's what we're working on right now. We're working on getting enforcement to do its job. People who are supposed to take the direction from we the people, not the de facto government, and not be cronies for the government, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So what is just now, let's just talk about the people there in New York right now, because we all see things on television. We all see and hear a lot of stuff on both sides, and that we're hearing all this, lies and stuff, and then we're hearing very, very few people trickle down telling you how they feel about what's going on up top. But what's the climate like right now? What would you say as you look at, your neighbors or the people that are just out in the street? How are they feeling about this totalitarian type of, mantle this guy is running around with? I mean, he really does have this, like, I'm it. I mean, what's the climate?
Yeah, so I live in the city. I'm in the Queens Brooklyn border here. And this used to be a very family oriented neighborhood. And what used to be a very family oriented neighborhood has become very gentrified, with people from out of state who bring they're very passionate about their politics. Unfortunately, their politics are very weird. And they actually, a lot of the people who move here, who are transplants from other states, do support Governor Cuomo. It's literally why they're here. They're here because of the political climate here in New York. They leave their states, their home states, which may not be aligning with their political beliefs, and they come here because New York seems to be a place where a meeting ground for people with these political beliefs. Now the families.
Give me an example.
So I have hipsters. So I have hipsters who are very, very far left. They're about 35 to 40 years old, no children. They believe in canceling rent. They believe in not being able to leave anything to your children. There's no accumulated wealth. That everything should go to the system. So if I die, I shouldn't be able to leave my son anything. And when I die, my house should be sold and for the city, and that should be dispersed amongst everyone. And they believe in this stuff. So there's spray,
Socialism.
Yeah,
It's straight socialism,
100%. It is socialism. I
and
think.
it's anti-God. It's anti
Oh,
the Word of God, because the Bible even says that a wise man will leave an inheritance to his children's children.
absolutely. Yes, it is very anti-God. So we do have very family-oriented people that still live in the neighborhood, and those people are very affected by the shutdowns and the mask mandates and the complete tyranny from our state legislature and our governor and our mayor. Those people are looking to just flee. And I mean, if you think about it, these people are refugees at this point. I'm born and raised. I'm born in Brooklyn. I'm raised in New York. I don't know anything else but New York. I not a thing.
Mm,
Never lived anywhere outside of New York City. So,
mm,
the thought of me picking up and fleeing, I'm a refugee at that point because there is
mm,
where I even want to go. I want to be free, but I mean, I also want to stay here in my home. I want to stay in my home. I want to stay in my hometown. I don't want to leave. My husband is a firefighter. Obviously he would have to stay for work, and I would have to pick up on my son and go to another state if there would be. I mean, right now they're not right at the second. Last session, a bill was introduced, forced COVID-19 vaccine for all New Yorkers, all New Yorkers. So, I mean, if that bill gets introduced and moves, or if Cuomo decides to declare another executive order that would mandate the COVID-19 vaccine for all New Yorkers, I'm not giving anything to my son. Not a thing. I know when I carried my son for 9 months, no one gets to put anything in his body. No one, period. No one has a say. I have the
mm.
last me. So if
Amen.
you're going to take that from me, I would flee before I inject my son with something. I
Amen.
have altered him from the beginning. God made him perfect. God made his immune system. I don't need you to come in and ruin it. So I
Mm.
will never inject my son with something ever again. I've learned my lesson. I got my second chance, and that's my pact with God. So I will continue to fight, but I will never give in. I will never waver, ever.
Well, sister, you have a powerful, powerful voice, both figuratively and literally. You have a powerful voice. And I just want to say, I have been wondering how things were going to pan out in New York. And then, of course, in tandem with concern, being concerned about how things were going in New York, the first thing I thought about was, wow, there's so many high cases allegedly there, and there's all this high stuff going on. But then there's also the strictest, some of the strictest guidelines and rules and all this other stuff. Of course, the rules are for the peeblings, and of course, not for, as you just, taught him what he thought he wanted to be, Mr. King Cuomo.
Mm-hmm.
As the same as it is with California and any other place that has decided to partner with the devil. Um, it just makes me wonder, how are they having these high cases and still they're still doing the same exact tactics? To me, that's what shows us that what they're doing is just not real. What they're doing is not right. And what they're responding to is something that is, they're taking advantage of something that was released, in my opinion. They're taking advantage of the fear tactic that people will be motivated to do what they say. They're taking advantage of that. They want people to live in fear. They want people to be afraid, because once you have a fearful group of sheep, then you can manipulate that group of sheep to do and say anything you want them to do. You're wearing them down. It is what the devil does. See, the name Satan, or the name, the devil, means diablo. It means to penetrate continuously. If you break down the word diablo, it just means to continuously hit and hit and hit and hit until the thing that's being hit is broken down. And right now, what they're working on is the will of the people. And they just told you they were fighting for the will of the souls of America, the will of the soul of the people. They were fighting for the soul of the people. They just told you that. You know what I'm saying? They just told us that's what they were trying to do. And so what it looks like right now is they are moving everybody into the mindset of being afraid of the government, having fear of them, and believing that if they don't do what they're told to do, X, Y, or Z is going to happen. But we are going to cancel that out right now in the name of Yeshua. All of these things that have been exposed, that we are all now down here watching and seeing, is being exposed because there are those of us who are praying for exposure with a remedy. Exposure with a remedy. How are you feeling as it relates to the assembly and the effectiveness of you guys being able to get this done? Are you confident?
I am very confident. I'm lucky to be surrounded with a bunch of people with the hearts of lions among sheep. So
Mhm.
we do great work, and we come up with great ideas every day. And just when I think God, this may not work, He opens a door, and something
Mm.
show me that the path has to continue. That this is the way. So this is in the Bible. Natural laws in the Bible, and
Of course.
and this is the way that humanity will be restored. This is the beginning of the restoration plan. So this is the main focus, is the people standing up and getting organized, because obviously the evil that's taken over the world is literally in our governments, controlling people,
Of
controlling
course.
them.
Yeah.
The people need to stand up and get organized and get assembled. So I'm completely confident in the New York de Jour Assembly and all the assemblies that are assembling around the country and around the world right now. I speak to people. I have meetings every day with different states. I've had meetings with Canada. They're assembling. There's assemblies almost in every state in the U.S. that are assembling and mirroring the New York Assembly. So this is I hate to call it a movement for lack of a better word, but this is a powerful thing that's happening. People are realizing that this is the way to do it, and there are other states doing great work right now. Florida, New Jersey has a meeting tonight. I've spoken to Washington, Oregon, California, Texas. It's everywhere. Utah. It's
Mm.
everywhere right now. The people are rising.
So, so let me ask you a couple of questions. The first question I want to ask you is a regular standard question, and the second one is devil's advocate question.
Sure.
The first one is, you mentioned something pretty much about, going in and being able to exercise your right to um, do a citizen's arrest or execute a citizen's arrest. And am I correct? Because I think that's what I heard you mention
Yes,
earlier.
New York, we have the right to citizens
Yeah,
arrest.
yeah. So how, and again, I don't want to ask you any pledge or anything, but is that something that you guys see is doable? I mean, is there, because to me, it would seem like that's what needs to happen from sea to shining sea and from coast to coast, to be quite honest with you. I mean, as I look at it right now, it just looks to me like everybody needs to, just, do whatever you got to do, but just take these cats once you get them and take them straight to the, what is it? Is it the marshal, the marshal of each state? Take them someplace quickly, because the things that are going on right now are unbelievable. But tell me, about that in your state. And is that, like you just said, it was a possibility? Explain to us how it's a possibility, and then I'll come in with the second question.
So on the lower level reps, that is definitely something. Once this is why we're creating relationships with our sheriff, because even if the sheriff isn't the one to do it, he can pretty much back the efforts of the citizens arrest. So there absolutely are people, patriots, men who want to stand up and get this done, serve the people, whether they are, veterans or former police officers. We do have people who are willing to do this in every state, and we do have a large presence here in New York who would get that done. For a rep like Cuomo, it's absolutely not an option. So he's obviously tied in with things that are much more dangerous than a lower level rep, like someone like Nick Perry or Brad Hoylman of the 27th Senate district in New York. So these some of these guys are tyrants that people would love to put in cuffs. That's probably more practical to get done on a lower level, so a citizen's arrest. But obviously I don't think that I'm walking up into Albany, into the governor's office, and I mean, first of all, I'm not even going to get in there, right? Regardless, obviously the state troopers work for him. They are policy enforcers and he is a policy maker. So they're literally there just for him. Whether they like him or not, that's their job, right? So it's literally like the king, the king and his army, right? Those people serve him. Um, that's what it is. So obviously we would need, that's why, like the sheriff could walk in there. So if we had the Albany sheriff.
We lost her.
Am I here?
Yeah, I hear you now.
All right. He can walk in there and arrest Cuomo because that's his jurisdiction, and he is the highest law enforcement in whatever county it is. So whatever your sheriff can literally tell the president of the United States to get out of his county. That's how powerful the sheriff is in his county. So he can walk in there and he can arrest him. But then you would have the de facto government, who obviously the government, the president, the DOJ, they can go ahead and get that done. So that's why you have to kind of go above and beyond. And if it gets to the point where nobody's helping us, then the people have no choice but to take it into it. We can't just take it sitting down. We have to get something done. So, we figure we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we're going to pretty much direct all three lines of enforcement to pretty much get the job done.
So here's the devil's advocate question, because I have to ask it. There have been many, quite public attempts of assemblies to be formed and to be enacted and active. Why have so many assemblies failed in the past? And have you guys put any, fail safes in place to prevent that? Why have so many failed in the past?
One is infiltration. So there are many assemblies that exist to create their own systems and enslave people, take people enslaved from one system and put them in another. And then they govern those people. And they're really not working towards a solution. So that's one reason. Infiltration from people who obviously don't want good work done, controlled opposition. So we do have a security committee here on our assembly. A woman who actually does security for a living. She has security background. She has clearance, things of that nature, who does act as our the head of a security committee, who has done a phenomenal job creating a vetting process. And we have not been infiltrated where other assemblies are already being infiltrated very early in their existence. And we've been here for almost a year. And knock on wood, we have not been infiltrated. That's one reason. The other reason is you can do all the great documentation you want. I have full confidence in my in the document committee here, the doc writing committee here. They're amazing, and I know there's no such thing as a perfect document, but I know that the notices that they put out are more than sufficient and more than lawful and de jure. But when it comes down to it, you can go through this whole process. The key is enforcement. It's the key. I mean, especially on the higher levels, they're not going to get and walk away because you don't like them. They don't care. You cannot citizens arrest them. They're too powerful. They're too tied up with the deep state, the cabal, whatever it is that you want to call them, evil forces, where they feel like they're untouchable, and the enforcement does side with them. So when you're trying to do something on the New York Assembly, dove right into it. We came to be at a time where we were on lockdown. It was so sad because some out of our people couldn't even see their family members here. Like they had to see their parents in a month. So we came to be at a time where people were at their worst, and we turned it into something very good. And that's I do believe we're doing the work of God. So just when I thought that a door had closed, all of a sudden sheriffs started standing up and publicly coming out against Governor Cuomo. And we have went ahead. Yeah, we had come out, and then we sent all these letters, acknowledging that they had come out for the people. We're following up. Tamita is one of the people that are following up. She sits on the sheriff's committee, and we're doing great work. We have a bunch of meetings coming up, and we're just trying to get the sheriffs to back our efforts because it's the lawful thing to do. It literally sits in their sheriff's handbook. So it all comes down to enforcement. So the sheriff's first,
So
and then the de facto
go ahead.
job. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. I had a question because it just brought to mind a situation for a ranch out Midwest and many years ago, but not too far for us to not remember. And I won't say the name, but I will say this. Um, is it your opinion that possibly some of these that we have seen that have been publicized have not been able to be successful, specifically because the law was on the bad guy side? Is that possible to assume?
Yeah. So from speaking to people who have been doing this for a long time, I noticed that they are these they do rely on that the whole white hat movement, and they are
And what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think about that? Because, a lot of this stuff just popped up. Names that okay, let me just qualify this. Names that not all of us have heard before, but that have obviously may have been around for some time. I don't know. But what is your theory behind all of that? What is that?
I mean, from my understanding, you know, white hats have existed forever, right? And they're good people in the government that are trying to change it from the inside out. From what I understand, there's not really any left. Most of them died in the bombing of the Pentagon in 2011. That's my understanding. So
Mhm.
these people who have been doing this for a very long time, I think that they write this documentation, and then they send notice to their president or to the military. A lot of them send straight notice to the military. And so I would never send notice to the military because I'm sure there's really good people in the military, and then there's some really bad people in the military. And most of the bad people are
Oh yeah.
giving the orders, right? That's why we drone bomb
Mm.
children in the Middle East, not because we're
Mm.
fighting for freedom, right? Because you don't fight for freedom, drone bombing babies in the Middle East.
Mhm.
That's not how this works. So I would never send notice because I'm not sure who's going to get it, right? So, but these people do send,
Okay.
yeah, and then they wait on their front lawns and they wave their American flag and they wait for the tanks to come to arrest their governor, and it never happens. So you
Mm.
good work. You got to get in there. You
Mhm.
get dirty. You got to have
Mm.
conversations with your
Mhm.
county sheriffs. You have to get your assemblies up in your counties that serve as your committees of safety to go ahead and have direct communication with your sheriffs. You have to send I mean, you have to already acknowledge and announce yourselves to the president and let the de facto know on a federal level. The New York de jure assembly is reestablished. We're here and we're working. Let them know ahead of time. So these things are important, right? So we have already reached out. So we haven't reached out, but we've had people outside of the assembly reach out to marshals. We're working on all ends. We unlike other assemblies, we have aligned ourselves with, say, Life Force, who has complete communication with a citizens task force here in New York and in every state. And other states can come in and help. So other state task force, citizens task forces can't come in and help one state. The surrounding states can help. So these are things that we've all looked into. We are communication, because at the end of the day, enforcement is key, and you have to do the work. You have to establish relationships, and that's probably where people went wrong. They never did those things. They never got in there and got dirty. They just relied on whatever President Bush at the time, whoever it was, President Reagan, whoever it is, they
Yeah.
was on their side that isn't. That's exactly what this comes down to. So
I'd like to piggyback off of what you're saying, Jeannie. Powerful. And I think that piece where the people disconnected from the police or the sheriff or the law enforcement, especially in the times that we're in now. So much talk about defund the police. That's a clever tactic to separate the people from the very group that's here to protect you from the elected officials. So we have to get back into the community. This assembly is going to work because the documentation is in place, it's properly assembled, and we are building the connection to law enforcement. We are collaborating with them. We don't look at them as our enemy. They're not. They are our line of enforcement. And we have to reassure them that we're not that group that's trying to defund you or say you're this or say you're that. There's bad apples everywhere in every industry, in every group. We understand that. However, we have to still keep our minds open and understand the process of what you need to do to govern yourself as people. I would just like charge everyone with getting in touch with the New York Assembly. Go to newyorkassembly.info, come on to one of our onboarding calls, or just send us a contact information. It's important that everyone form their own assemblies where you are in your counties, in your states. You can form more than one, but it's your way of organizing your community for you, in your lifestyle, in your religion, in the way you want to see your community run. As long as everything you're doing is in good faith and not harming others, this is the piece that none of us were taught in school: how to form your own government, govern yourself, and then oversee the elected officials that we choose to speak for us. And the reality is, we don't have to wait 4 years or 2 years until someone's term is done to remove them. We have the power to remove them at any time when they become unconstitutional in their behavior. And this is why this assembly is going to work. Jeannie has done an amazing job of just knowing the facts, knowing the law, educating people, opening her doors to talk to anyone, from people all across this nation to across the world, all the way to Ireland and around and back. Because everyone in this world needs to organize themselves to protect themselves. And this is why I am confident that this is going to work this time.
So
Thank
then, based on what you're saying, it sounds like, one of the things that has, your approach has made you guys successful when you say that having that open door with the police and letting them know, no, we came directly to you because we're letting you know that we need you, we need your assistance, we want you to help, we believe that you are here to protect and serve. So have you found that those that do, join forces, or those who are not afraid of what it is that you guys are doing, do you find that they're more supportive? I mean, what has been the response? Because to be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever heard of an assembly, actually embracing the fact that we need the police. You know what I'm saying? I've heard a couple.
Yes. Um, I'm on the Sheriff's Committee. We have begun the process to collaborate, and so far, the response has been powerfully supportive. I think the approach is everything. We have been living in a world where, let's think about it, the police, they're people too, right? You go to your job every day, you're watching TV, you're seeing what's going on in the news, you see the situations between racial issues, being a police officer. You have the governor of New York, whom is just not the governor of New York. Other people in this nation look towards him, and he comes out of his mouth and says, I'm defunding the police. So as a law enforcement person, expect it that they will go into a shell and be cautious and not understand, like, let me be careful. I don't know if you're here to come behind me and do something, or you really are here to support me. So our committee made it very clear. We're here to support you. We don't support defunding the police. We support reform in all areas of our government because it needs it. But the core values of everything we do is about respect and collaboration. Because in the end, if Governor Cuomo has his way, guess what? The sheriff becomes a citizen, just like everyone else. And he has no more
Exactly.
power. So
Exactly.
we have to align with them. And I do believe that was the mistake of the past. And not that they made a mistake, it was just the aura of the times. And it's been a thing to go against the police. So now we're just in a different space. We understand. Jeannie's been coaching us, and teaching us and telling us to go find for ourselves what natural law is. And natural law is the sheriff is my law enforcement. And all my life, or at least portions of my life, the world has been trying to make them my enemy. And now we know
Now,
why.
so now let's talk about that, because I want to tap into that statement. And the reason why I want to tap into the law is my law enforcement, or is my, the police as my law enforcement, is because one could say, well, that's, and just, hear me out on this one. Again, playing devil's advocate. One could say that back before the Western days, let's look at those nice periods of time where people lived out on their ranch. They took care of themselves. They did what they had to do. The spirit of the whole enforcer could have been a reason why things went a little cattywampus. Wouldn't you say that you give that power to the person? So now you guys have achieved what you were looking for. You guys have gotten that balance with your local government, and now somebody feels a little bolder. And whenever anybody begins to hold up their chest and puff out and starts to kick like a rooster out in the middle of the hen yard, then all of a sudden you've got that same exact spirit. So how is it going to be different once you guys get everything up and running? How are you going to prevent anybody else from getting a little big for their britches?
Because there's a
Does
method.
that make sense?
There's a method that works now. So all of these,
Okay.
The de facto government has been left unchecked. No way to hold them accountable. So now,
Yes.
when we're successful, everyone will know of a way to hold their public servants accountable, which they were not able to do before. The only
Right.
vote them out. Go out and protest and hope that they view you as a large enough voting block to care about what you're saying. Whether it be they jump on board and they pretend they care about you, or they you intimidate them and they think that you're going to flip their seat somehow. And they're going to lose their seat. But the way they don't care about you. And just to talk about regular police officers, not speaking about sheriffs. Back in Germany, they defunded their police force.
Of
and
course.
they replaced
Yes.
them with soldiers who killed people. And we really have to think about that here, that these politicians, now, here in New York, you want to say that we have a problem where police use too much force, right? I'm not arguing that for or against, right? But if you
Right, well,
really
that's not the argument here, right? Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're staying focused. That's right.
so here's my argument, right? So recently, about a year ago, our legislature, which is again Democrat majority, a Democrat introduced a bill to make vaping illegal.
Wow.
So you can no longer vape in public. If you're caught vaping in public, you get a fine, right? So my problem with this is these are policymakers who have all these crazy laws, their laws, right? Their policy on the books that gives cops more probable cause to search you, stop stop your vehicle and search you, right? So how this is all how things happen, right? So you have a black man driving in a neighborhood that somewhere in Queens where it's not a heavily where you would see black people normally, so that the cops are already looking at him, right? And then because you have bad and good cops everywhere, right? And now he's vaping in his car alone by himself, probable cause to pull him over. He's late, there's a little bit of an attitude there. Cops pull him out the vehicle. This all creates a situation that could have been avoided if they didn't have probable cause to pull him out the vehicle to begin with. Now, you're going to be mad and march against the policy enforcers. And you know who's marching right alongside with you? The Democrat or whatever, the Republican, whoever it was, that just wrote that law, that just wrote that bill to be voted into law. So if you really cared about the people, you would stop for a moment and stop infringing on our personal freedoms and writing so much policy to be put on the books. So these policy enforcers have to go out and enforce the policy that you just wrote them. This is a vicious cycle. And then these
Right.
want to continue to vote in these people who want to restrict our freedoms further. More laws on the book, more reasons to fine us, more reasons to jail us. Well, this is a vicious cycle at this point. So we're picking on the people at the bottom, and we're never getting anything done from the top. If there weren't so many laws in the book, there would be less probable cause. There would be less problems. And that's exactly where this comes from. It all comes down to government is the problem. I have no problem with the cops. No problem.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, because what do you feel the dismantling of the Fourth Amendment had to do with that much, power that the police are now ennobled with. And I have to agree with you. Uh, a lot of people say, defund the police, and yet those are the exact same people that as soon as their house gets broken into or somebody decides to rob them, or something that happens to them, they're the first to dial 911. It's amazing to me how
Mhm.
people can say that. But with that said, um, my first portion of the statement, how do you reckon that? I mean, how do you feel about that?
I'm completely against no knock raids. I'm completely against search and I mean I lobbied against stop and frisk here. Those are all I don't care if it makes you feel safer, right? I mean if my rights are being violated, that doesn't mean that it's okay because you feel safer. All
Right.
so the Constitution protects the minority. It only takes one person's rights to be getting violated. In other words, for uh, the law to be null and void, right? So
Mm,
if just because it makes someone feel, oh, thank God they pulled those people over and whatever, because that makes me feel safer. Those people's rights are being violated. It doesn't matter who it makes it feel. That doesn't matter. So I'm completely against all of those things. The Constitution is there for a reason. It's not for us
right.
to give us our rights. Our rights are natural born, God-given rights. It protects our rights from the de facto government from violating our rights. And they have one job: protect our rights and uphold the Constitution. And they struggle with that on a daily basis. On a daily basis, they
So absolutely, they do. They do. She's absolutely right, folks. The link is inside of the chat. My mod Ronnie Mann put the link there as well. Demita did as well. So you guys, the link is in there for you guys to check this out. And we are talking specifically about the rights of people, of us, we the people, to form our assemblies and to hold our government accountable. It's really only a bad thing to those people who have had their pockets lined by lobbyists and who have had their pockets lined by those who wish to do harm to the people. So it's only a problem if you know that having assemblies to keep their feet to the fire, uh, uh, that's the only people that it's a problem to. But as we were talking about the Fourth Amendment, I think a lot of these things, once the Supreme Court started to pick away at the Fourth Amendment, I believe that people get paid from all different directions, and I'm really a firm believer in calling stuff what it is right now, and that's where I've grown to this place. Before I would play the game. Well, the Supreme Court did this, and then they did this or that. No, cats were paid off. You got cats that's paid off. All right. That's the reason why all the garbage is going on right now. With us being, and I do feel like we are under a coup d'etat now, where they're just taking over the people. Period. Taking over the money, but it's more blatant than ever. Before there was still a couple of bucks here and there, and you'd never really know. Then you could have a whole Pentagon come out and say, "Well, we lost billions, but you don't know where it is." Okay, hey, dinner at 8. Yeah, dinner at 8. Move right along, no problem. But when they start to dismantle the Fourth Amendment, especially as it related to the illegal search and seizure, especially the things that were going on in New York for some time, which was the stop and frisk. It began to embolden some of those really draconian things that were put on the books by people who had reason. Now, let's just say, for example, the cat that decided to go on ahead and put out that thing that said no vaping, maybe he had somebody that was a tobacco person paying him. You know what I'm saying? We'll see a lot of those things, and that's the way it'll start. But my point is, once they began to dismantle the Fourth Amendment, the laws for the streets became a whole lot more rogue. The cats that were rolling down the street became more rogue. I feel that it's not defund the police that is the important phrase. I think the phrase is restructure this thing and make sure that just like it is in any other customer service driven environment that needs its customers to stay afloat, that if these cats get one bad mark and you know that what they did is excessive force, well, then you're going to be pushing a pencil for the next 3 months. And we're going to reevaluate you after that. And if you do something else, then you're just plain fired. Now, if it's something as egregious as commit a crime while working, I believe that it should be written to the point where it's not about you going home with a suspension and pay. It's about you going to stay in an uncomfortable concrete jail cell until we can put you before a judge and until we can determine whether or not your actions were unlawful. We can determine by way of all these cameras that we got all over the place, north, south, east, and the west of you, if what you did was unlawful. So that's the point. It is not for those who feel in the replay, in the chat, wherever you at. I said at the end of a sentence. Help me, Lord. It is not it is not for us to say defund the police. That is the most asinine thing that we could ever say. Why? Because if we are looking at history, to Jeannie's point, okay, to Demita's point, we will know that history dictates or tells us that the next thing that's coming is not our military, because Betty Smith down the street, her grandson is a weekend warrior. He may not kick your door in, but a UN soldier will. Let that sink in. So it is not about defunding the police. Get it out your vocabulary if you saying it. Stop it. Or if you have somebody that breaks in your house and knocks you upside the head, then don't call them. There you go. Let them go to somebody else's house that need help. If you want to defund them, just don't call them. Okay? That's the easiest way to rid you of that. I'll say it like that. But yes, I do believe that the powers that be have been complicit in dismantling, excuse me, the Constitution specifically for reasons that we just mentioned, and it is because their bread is buttered on somebody's side. Plain and simple. Every single thing is motivated by the love of money.
It
The
is.
love of money, the love of money is the root of all evil. What do you mean? People say, no, the love of money is evil. No, people say money is evil. No, it's the love of it. Why? Because that little bitty piece of paper, I have a chick strolling up and down the street selling her goodies. It will. Yes, the love of the money. Okay. The love of the money will have people on drugs breaking into your house to get that next high. Why? Because they need that money. They love that money. The love of money is the very root of every evil that you have ever seen. You dig and you follow that money. You want to know why people are motivated to do things wrong once they become an elected official? Follow the money. Why? Because the love of that money is the very root of all evil. Now, for those who would say, no, money is evil, just money is evil, well, then I would ask you, what do you do with the passage where, Jesus even said himself, Yeshua even said himself, money answereth all things. The Father said, the Most High said, money answers all things. Why? Why does money answer all things, Felicia? How can you agree with that passage? Well, if you ain't got your bills paid, your light's about to get cut off, money gonna answer that call. You ain't got no money for your car, money gonna answer that. Money gonna answer no shoes on the feet. Money answers that. So yes, money answers all things. It is not the money that is evil. The root of all of the evilness is the love and the motivation behind people's actions. Now, as it relates to us having the rights that are in us, it's not the Constitution, you guys, that gave us those rights. It's God, as she said earlier. God gave us those rights. And then when the rights had been taken away from us, the Most High Yah sent Yeshua to buy us back, to buy back our freedom. And that is why we can say with surety that whom the Son has set free is free indeed. He's free indeed. He's free indeed. D-E-E-D. He's free. He's not bond. He's not owned. Nobody has him by the hair. But they are no longer bond, but free. So What she is talking about tonight is specifically everything that we already know, everything that we already want. And all I can hear in my head for the last week or so is Mr. Gil Scott Heron from the 60s and 70s. That this next thing here ain't going to be televised. It ain't going to be televised. It's going to be specifically people like Jeannie, as well as Demita, as well as you guys in the chat that are beginning to stand up for your right that God gave you, that the Most High Yah gave you. That's what this is going to be about. And whether you can form your own assembly or do as they suggested and support their efforts, at least do that. This is my support of that effort, right? And so go to the website, check it out, click it, read it, make yourself aware. It's not about being in strong opposition of the police and strong opposition and militant against others. It's not. That's not what this is about. What they are talking about is a very intellectual, very intelligent approach to doing what is already written that we have a right to do. That's what this is. This is about doing what we've already got the right to do. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Is it SCH? Unbelievable, Lockhart, that you would stand for not funding the police. I'm shocked. You should know better. Well, let me tell you what I know better. Let me tell you what I know better. I know that when I was a little girl, I was raped by a neighbor. And I know that my mama called the police. And I know that a couple of them police took that cat on a little ride before they took that cat down to the police precinct. So now I don't know that better you talking about. The better I'm talking about is the better that says hold them accountable. Because if you ain't got no gat, no nine, no iron of your own to protect your home and to protect yourself, when something go down, you're going to pick up that phone because you've proven that you are trained to dial 911. All
And I
I'm saying is,
piggyback that.
hold on, baby, because all I'm saying is, if you don't want them, don't call them. But do not infringe upon my right to have qualified police officers working, patrolling our streets, keeping them accountable, and making them walk in the seat of a public servant or customer service person. That's what I'm saying. So no, I don't know better, but I do respect you. You say shame on you, you don't need the police. Well, then you know what, baby? Don't call them. You see how easy that works? You say shame on Lockhart for not calling but I don't need the police. Listen here, if you don't want them, baby, don't call them. But you cannot tell me that I cannot look back in history and know that every great takeover of a place has removed the strong man out the way. When you take away the police, baby, you rolling in tanks next. When you take away the police, you have nothing but lawlessness. They've already showed you what'll happen if you take them and lock them down and let a whole entire tunnel collapse on them. Look at Bane going out there and watch the movie. Everybody at the house right now, going out there and watch Batman and see what Bane did to the police and then see the lawlessness that roam the streets. So no, I don't know better, baby. I appreciate you for sharing that with me, but no, baby, I don't know better. I'm almost 57. I'm sorry. You know how us old people is. You know how us old folks are. We just stuck in our ways. So no, baby, I don't know better, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And if you can protect yourself, that's great. I think the one important piece that you are forgetting is this, that they do it specifically to take, they're not saying to fund the police because they like you. They're saying, since we can't get your guns out your hands, Americans, Let us defund the police so that we can quickly take over you. You better look at these countries that don't have no guns. You better look at these countries where the police have now been militarized. And hey, the cats you looking at that you don't like out there, the ones you want to defund, half of them are militarized. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about putting things back in the normal order, the way that it's supposed to be. If you take an oath, then you need to be bound by that oath. If you're not bound, if you don't want to be bound by that oath, then I tell you what, give up your shield, give up your weapon, and beat it, Dusty Feet. Go ahead with your statement, Demita.
No, actually, it was Jeannie, but
Yes.
Oh, Jeannie, go, Jeannie.
you did kind of touch on it. So there's this entire agenda to defund the police, and it has nothing to do with standing up for minorities and making sure that police stop police brutality. It has nothing to do with that. So the policymakers, these government officials, they need someone to go out there and enforce their law that they continue to put on the books. And once again, they're the ones that continue to restrict our freedom, not the police. If they would stop writing so much policy, then there would be less reason for the cops to go out there and pull you over or to infringe on your rights, right? So it comes from the top. The other thing is, obviously this is a larger agenda. So if they need policy enforcers, they need somebody to go out and enforce the laws that they continue to write. I mean, here in New York, in Albany, sometimes 100 bills a day. 100 bills a day. That's insane. That they're just writing to write, right? Just to put stuff on the books. That's where the problem comes in. If they usher out the cops, they're gonna usher in something else. And we touched on UN police. That's who it is. So if you think that the UN police are not going to come in and do whatever they want to you and your family and take your children, whatever it is they want, you're crazy. That if you don't think this is part of a bigger agenda, they are exploiting the fact that minorities. Now, I'm half Puerto Rican. My father, we grew up in Bushwick. My father was a Vietnam vet. My father had problems with cops in the streets all the time. Told me stories left and right. So I mean, it's not like I don't see it. It's not like I didn't live it. I'll tell you that much. But the thing is that you have to know who's on your side. And these politicians who are creating this agenda, pumping out into the streets, pretending to stand with you, they are working for a higher agenda that has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with you other than to enslave you further. So don't trust their agenda and don't run with it. Don't run with it because they don't care about you. I promise that much. There's a higher agenda to enslave you even further, to abuse you even further. So do not trust them and do not run with their political agenda, which is exploiting people.
It's so true. Yes. I just want to interject just a tad. What's happening with the police is what's happening everywhere in our lives. It's the separation of all the things that create a community. Everything they're doing to separate mothers and fathers, everything they're doing to separate families, everything they're doing to separate children from their parents, everything they're doing to discount your religion. Every facet of a community is being infiltrated with a psychology to make the people angry at the things that form their community. And the police are just part of the puzzle. And we have to remember, and this is what the assembly is about. The assembly is about love, respect, collaboration, and number one is accountability. And help me out, Felicia. I know there's somewhere in the Bible that says if you love, you have to be accountable. You can't just say, I'm going to love you and do this and do that. You have to live a life that's accountable. And without us really knowing, the people have relaxed on their part to be accountable for our own lives. And we've allowed elected officials, okay, well, he said he was going to do this. He said he was going to do that. And we let go of the part where we have to be accountable.
Demita, I have to ask you, hold on just a second. I don't know, is it Kosh or Kosh? I don't want to be disrespectful by calling out your name incorrectly, but let me just say this to you. You made the statement, Lockhart, we need each other. The police are not our friends. Okay. Then you said, Lockhart, wake up. Okay, I got you. Here is this is the scenario. If you're still here in the chat, let me explain to you the scenario that we are looking at right now. We are looking at a scenario that is saying, take away your guns. Now, these same cats are not saying, oh, defund the police and give everybody a gun like Gaddafi had. Everybody was strapped. Everybody was strapped in that country. Libya, everybody, from the grandmama to the person selling tomatoes on at the market, everybody was strapped. They had guns in their home. They had guns in the center of the city. Why? Because he meant to make sure that their people there were protected. But this is not what these folks that are talking to you guys, tickling the ears, is saying. They're not saying give the people their arms and defund the police. No, my friend, that's not what they're saying. They're not saying that at all. They're saying take away the guns. And Camel Toe Harris says, as soon as I get in, I'm going to make sure that there's legislation. I'm going for the guns as soon as I get in there. And I heard her say it out my own ears, out of her own mouth into my own ears. I heard her say it. So they're not talking about replacing these police that are here. There are some good ones. I have family members that are police. They're not talking about replacing those cats with weapons. They're not telling you that they're going to give you a weapon to protect your house in lieu of the police. They're not saying that. What they're saying is, give us your weapons, give us your magazine, cut down all the artillery that you can go out and purchase. Then we want the cops. Why? Because they know that the handful of cops that's dirty and that's wrong is minuscule compared to the ones who got into that gig because they really wanted to make a difference. And so they feel if they just get rid of everybody, good and bad, now you roll in them light blue Compton Crip colored hats from the UN. And baby, if you ain't did your research on what they have done in every single country that they have been in, I sure hate it for you. So yes, I respect everything that you have to say. I respect you saying that we need each other. We need each other. But where is the we whenever something goes wrong and somebody done got killed in the middle of the road by Pookie them from the other block? Where is the we that goes to anybody and says, I saw them. They had on a red shirt. They were driving a green Vega, and the license plate was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go get them. Where are the we then? So there ain't no we. There is no protecting the we because we already know that if something go down, we've been taught. Shut up, stay in the house, don't say nothing, don't you get involved, which is the reason why so many of our communities have crimes that have not been solved. That in tandem with the fact that, yes, the powers that be happen to dislike certain colored people. And everybody in my chat knows that's true. Some of them, but not all. So I do believe that we need each other, but I'm not going to say that all police are not our friends. And in as much as you're asking me to wake up, I submit that I'm quite woke and that there needs to be some study and due diligence on your part when you look through history and see what happens when you systematically take over a country. What are the steps that have happened that have worked in the past? That is, systematically remove the police, take all the weapons from the people. Now you have nothing but a bunch of people running around like sheep, arming themselves with butter knives, because I guarantee you the next thing they'll take is the rest of your cutlery and your butchery. Thank you so much for your comment. Demita, you can finish now.
I think you summed
Whomever
it up
likes to say
so
something.
well. You summed it up so well. And it just stems back to the people being accountable. And the New York Assembly, that's what it's about. It's about us being accountable, getting off the couch and doing what we need to do. And as we do that, it is a snowball effect to everything around us. then everybody becomes accountable. And once we do that, then we gain back control over our lives and we restore humanity.
Amen. And that's exactly what it's all about. Um, I do believe that we are to protect ourselves, in that if we consider the amendment that tells us that we have the right to bear arms, then in my opinion, if that had never been tampered with, I would possibly say that the necessity would be that you just leave me alone. Frankly, my dream 20, 30 years ago, all the way up to now, would be to have a huge piece of land that I can live on. Me and my brother Lee say this all the time. I just want to sit on my porch with my dog and my shotgun next to me and my fishing rod. That's all I need. I've already gone into the backyard and taken care of my fruits and my vegetables. I've already, taken care of my household, and all of that's done. Now I'm sitting on the porch after coming from a nice day out fishing. And I'm sitting on my porch with my hunting dog and my shotgun. Yeah, to me, that's comfort. To me, that's what it's all about. Then and only then would I be able to say, leave me alone. But you see, we're not dealing with that. We are dealing with a systematic takeover of our country. And the systematic takeover of our country is the reason why these nice ladies are visiting us today to say, hey, we're doing something about it. We're not just talking about it. We are about it. We have gone and we have put all the necessary paperwork together to make sure that we are flowing legally. We have embraced those that we know will need to make sure that we are doing things the way that it's supposed to be. Because even the Bible tells us that we are to follow the law of the land, but it's to a point. Anytime those laws take you opposite of the will and the word of the Most High Yah, you do not do it. And we all know that. But these ladies are saying that what we're doing is, we're not talking about it, we're being about it. This show tonight is about being about that life. We can all sit back, chit chat, talk with the clown. We can all sit back and gossip about all this stuff. And never, ever, nothing would come up. Nothing would come from it. But what these ladies are talking about is the New York Assembly. And that this assembly has been founded and it is running like a well-oiled machine, like a well-oiled machine. And all they're saying is, we know that this works. And we're encouraging other states to join us in our efforts. We're asking those that are listening to consider doing this in your community to restore our republic, one city at a time, one county at a time, one state at a time. We are saying, these ladies are saying, we want our government to do what it's supposed to be. We want it to be smaller, and we want it to do what we say, not the opposite. And so for that reason, I have to say, this is a good thing. When these ladies can come here and explain and tell us about some of the pitfalls that some of the previous, assemblies have fallen prey to, and they can see that and they remedied it. I think that's unbelievably splendid. I think that is brilliant. That is what I call working together with some intelligence, right? So, Jeannie, what else would you have to say? Or Demita, what else will you offer to these good folks that are listening?
I'll let Jeannie close it out.
Well, you can go to nyassembly.info, and you can definitely email me directly at nyapresident@protonmail.com, nyapresident@protonmail.com for more information. I can get you into your respective state assembly that's probably already trying to assemble. You need 13 people for a petite grand jury. So, this is the way. This is the way. You don't have to worry about policy enforcers if we are the people making the decisions. If the people the people have a place at the table. We don't have to worry about the police running amok. They're only running amok because the policy makers give them the ability to do that. The people can stop all of this. All we have to do is take our rightful seat at the table and restore power to the people. Take it away
That's
from the
right.
de facto governments. And then the problems, once we stand up and we get it done, all these problems will work itself out because the people will be working them out. So get into your
And they'll
respect.
be empowered. The people will
Yeah,
be empowered.
absolutely. That's the key. Thank
Yes, and this
Well, folks,
is
go ahead.
yes.
Go ahead, Demita. I'm sorry.
Last thing, everything Jeannie said is on point. And that is what the people have to be accountable for, right? That's our part. We do our part, get at the table because we're not at the table, and everything can be restored. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
You are
having me.
so very welcome. You are so very welcome.
Amazing.
Friend of the channel, Demita has introduced to us one of her colleagues in the faith, and one of her colleagues and sisters actually out there making things change and making things happen. I like it. That's what I say. I say I like it. I like the fact that these two folks, these two young ladies, have their eyes on what the true problem is, what the source of it is, and they're not just running run shots going straight through thinking, oh, well, we just got to do this one thing. No, they see exactly what's gone on in our great republic. And they understand that the only way that it's going to happen is if we all form those assemblies and get them together for ourselves. And I say kudos to you, ladies. I want to thank you, ladies, so much for being with us tonight. And I want to thank everyone in the chat. I want to especially thank Kosh for coming. I thank you for coming. And I thank you for coming because you added something. You're saying what everybody is saying, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's great for us to hear different views. It's great for us to have dialogue and share how we feel about one another's comments respectively. And I appreciate you for being here because that did definitely help us out. I want to also thank you, Steve. Steve came in tonight with a $99 super chat. $99.99. $99.99. And I want to thank you so much for that, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Steve Willis, God bless you. I so appreciate you for doing that. I see Tina Hardman was here earlier. I'm not sure if she's still here, but hello to you, Tina. Hello to everybody that's in the chat. There's so many of you here right now that I just don't want to be a meanie and just name out a couple. So I'm going to say one big blanket, I love you, and hello to all of you. My mod here this evening that's in charge is Ronnie Mann, and I want to thank him so much for being here. I want to thank each and every one of my mods for being here. I want to thank David. Thank you, sir, for being here all the way from Australia. We've got a few people who are from down under here, and they come to the channel very often. And so I thank you. I thank the folks that are here from Canada. Anthony, thank you. I so appreciate you. You guys, this is the Lockhart perspective, but it is also a place where we are able to come and to share the word of our Father, of Abba Father, the Most High Yah. A lot of people will say, well, why does she say, Yah? Why does she say Yeshua? Why does she? For those who want the reference point, I do refer to who some call Jesus as Yeshua. I do refer to our Father in heaven as Yahweh, as Yah. I do. And I suggest a little study. So that way we can, look it up ourselves and figure it all out, right? That's what I recommend. Do some study. Study to show thyself approved, a workman unto God. One that does not need to be ashamed, but rightly dividing the word of truth. And then once you parcel out that truth, you'll know why I say what I say. And so that's just that. But with that, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. We did start out tonight with Ezekiel, and that was, I believe, chapter 9. That was sent to us as a suggested reading from our Sandy Aaron, who is a friend of the chat, a friend of the channel. She's also one of the mods. I want to say I appreciate you for sending that to the email, Felicia at FeliciaLockhart.com. Thank you so much for sending that. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Jeannie, thank you.
Thank you.
1,000 thank yous for coming here tonight and being so eloquent in your approach to what you were sharing. I'll be quite honest with you. In the past, I've heard people speak of this, but never with the passion, the intelligence, the vigor, and the well thought out plan to be a part of the community, right? And still stand for the community. It's always appeared to me to be a separatist type thing. And I don't think that that's what other people plan for it to be. I'm just saying that you have brought a different light to it, both you and Demita, and that you guys have shared this with us in a way that makes us say, maybe maybe there's something to this. Maybe I need to go to that website and learn a little more. So I want to thank you guys for coming. And thank you so much for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're working on 2 hours and 15 minutes right now. And I want to thank everybody. We're about to close out, but I want you guys to all leave with this one important thing. And that is the word tells us that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the Most High. Thank you guys. I love every one of you all. You all take care now. Bye bye.